everybody. Welcome to Learning the Language of Wine. My name is Ron Holman. I'm a certified wine educator. I live in Georgetown, and I've been teaching wine classes, all different kinds of wine classes, for about 5 years now. I have 2 certifications. The first one is from the Society of Wine Educators, which is a national organization headquartered in Washington, D.C., and I have advanced certification from another organization called the Wine and Spirits Education Trust, which is international and headquartered in London. And I have to take courses in Boston and pass tests and all that. So I'm certified to do this. So there is an evaluation underneath the little placemat that you have. There's an evaluation, so after the class is over, which should take about 90 minutes, at least it's designed, but you can ask questions anytime. It's very informal. And at the end, please fill out the evaluation and let me know what you thought. So, again, I said this is very informal. I mean, I run into a lot of people when they hear that I'm a wine educator, and they say, "Oh, I'd love to take a class," but they're totally intimidated about taking the wine class. I said, "Oh, it's okay. You don't have to know anything. That's my job." So I tell people, all you have to do is sit and listen and drink. This is easy. You can do this. So, ask questions anytime, whenever you want. I call this. This is a basic how to taste wine. I call it learning the language of wine because I want you to learn a little bit about your own palate. How do you go into a wine shop and tell them what it is you want? And a lot of people, I teach, right now I'm teaching exclusive wine class. I'm the wine educator for a wine shop called Wine Sense in Andover, Massachusetts. I've been teaching there for 4 out of the 5 years I've been teaching. It is a wine shop. They don't sell liquor or anything else, just wine. And a lot of people think that, oh, I need to know something about wine to shop at a place like that. And it's the exact opposite. A place like a wine shop, there's always somebody behind the counter who knows something about wine. And they will teach you. They'll talk to you about what it is you might like. The places where you need to know about wine would be at Costco, or sometimes the the liquor stores in New Hampshire. A lot of times those people aren't trained for about wine. You're on your own. You're gonna have to kind of figure out what it is you want. They're just there to ring in the sale. But a wine shop, it's perfect. It's a perfect place. The wine shop is called Wine Sense. It's on the bottom of the placemat, but it's located at 166 North Main Street in Andover, Mass. And if you know where Whole Foods is, you know where Wine Sense is. A lot of people shop at the Whole Foods. So these are the major things that we're going to talk about. I'm going to explain these in order. Body, acidity, what fruit is. I mean, most people know what fruit is. Spice, tannin, what structure, complexity, and balance. These are the things that people talk about. Whenever you read in a wine magazine, they talk about this wine has a complexity. It's perfectly balanced. It has fruit. It has this. Well, we're going to explain what they're talking about. These are the wines that you're going to, according to the placemat, it only has 5, but we added another one at the last minute. The Ultra Pervasive Barbera has been added, so you're going to get 6 wines. And this is not a blind tasting. I do this on purpose. You know exactly what you're going to be tasting. There's no guesswork here. And each wine was chosen carefully to match the presentation. There's a reason behind what these wines are. A lot of the grape varieties, like 3 whites down the bottom, Trebbiano, Melon de Bourgogne, Viognier. A lot of people don't know about these grapes. I like to introduce, you're shaking your head like, what?
No.
Where's the Chardonnay? What we do is we like to add different grape varieties because a lot of people buy Chardonnay, they go into a liquor store and they don't know exactly what to buy. They look at a label that says Trebbiano. I'm not sure what that is, but I know what Chardonnay is, so I'll buy that. So I like to introduce people to different grapes. So that's why we're doing a wine like Bardolino, which is made up of 2 grapes, Corvina, and Rondinella. The fifth wine and the second red is Barbera, and the last one everybody should know is Merlot. So this was taken from a wine magazine a couple of years ago. Remember I just told you about how some people, how they describe wine? So this guy was talking about, he said, I'm going to read you, thick and rich with hedonistic black fruit aromas and all the accents of leather, tobacco, and olive. In the mouth, everything comes together in a commendable knit, and it doesn't sacrifice anything, be it berry fruit, herbal accents, tannic grip, or acidity. And you think, what the heck is he talking about? Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this aside, and after we go through all the things that I'm going to talk about with body, acidity, etc., I'm going to bring this back up on screen at the end of the show, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to pick this apart, and I'm going to tell you exactly what he's talking about. You'll know. You'll understand. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is body. What you're drinking is Trebbiano. From this one's from Abruzzo in Italy, and it's a light-bodied white wine. And body is not taste; it's texture. It's how the wine feels in your mouth. And the best way to explain something like that, since it's only texture, is to compare it with something that everybody knows, like milk. A light-bodied wine is like skim milk. It feels lighter in your mouth. A medium-bodied wine is like 2%, and a full-bodied wine is like whole milk. It's creamier. And you would think, well, who cares? You know, what difference would it make? And there's a couple of reasons why. A lot of people will taste a wine, and they'll say, well, yeah, it's okay. It's all right, but I don't know what, there's something about it. Well, you might like a full-bodied wine, and you're drinking a light-bodied wine, and that's one of the reasons. And the second reason why body is important is this is how you pair wines with food. If you're having like a light Dover Sole, you want a light-bodied wine. If you have a really creamy, thick Chardonnay, it's going to dominate the food. So body has a lot to do with it. Any questions so far? So, just an example of typical light-bodied wines. Pinot Grigio is light-bodied. Sauvignon Blanc, medium-bodied. Chardonnay, full-bodied. Those basic. They can differ. You can make a Pinot Grigio that's medium-bodied, but basically, these are examples of different grape varieties that cover light, medium, and full. Just some characteristics of the grape you're drinking right now, Trebbiano. It's light in body. It has a lot of acidity, which we're going to talk about with the second wine. Trebbiano is grown all over Italy. It's very widely planted. And used as a varietal or a blending grape, it just means that you might see it on the label, like this one, it's Trebbiano. I think this one's almost 100% Trebbiano. Blending grape means it's only making up a percentage. It can be blended with other grape varieties, which is done a lot. So what I'm going to do now, and you've already probably been sipping this wine. Everybody still have wine in the glass? So I'm going to leave this up here, and what we're going to do is I want you to pick up the glass and kind of look at the wine, look at the color. Everybody does this, you know. You just want to look at it, look like, you know, if it's clear, look appealing, and then when you smell it, stick your nose right in there. Don't be shy. It's okay. You can swirl it, and if you want to swirl the wine to get the air at it, to make it bring out the aromatics of the wine, you can leave it on the table and swirl it. It's easier than doing it. It's easier to do it if you leave the base on the table. And everything about wine is smell. Because there's so many different aromas in wine. And after you think, I mean, I'm going to leave this up here just to kind of give you an idea of what might be in there. The next slide, I'm going to show you what the producer had to say about this particular wine. So let me know when you're ready. Everybody sip it? Another idea about when you're tasting wine, leave it in your mouth for a couple of seconds before you swallow it. Saturate your taste buds with it. Everybody ready? Now, it's full of orchard fruits, smell that in the wine? No? Did you smell something else?
No, I didn't smell anything.
It's not, Trebbiano is not the most aromatic grape, but it is, there are smells in it.
I thought it was more citrusy.
Yeah.
Citrusy, yeah. Everybody's sense of smell is different, so you're gonna pick up different things from different wines. So, like I said, there's really no right or wrong answers here.
I think of fruits as being sweeter.
It can be. Yeah, this wine is actually quite dry. Dry meaning not sweet.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean. That's why I think of when this is orchard fruits, I think that describes a sweeter wine. And this isn't.
It can, but you can have a lot. There are a lot of light-bodied white wines. They can smell lemony and be very dry. Yeah.
Well, lemon is different than melon and apple and peach.
Yeah.
That's why
Anybody like this wine? You like Trebbiano? Pleasant. It's an easy drinking, nicely, great for warm weather.
How about price-wise for something like these or anything we should talk about?
I'm gonna have a price list right at the end, but this wine is about $12.
Okay.
So, just some light-bodied examples of other light-bodied wines. Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc can be light, can be medium-bodied. Pinot Grigio is usually light. Another one called Pinot Blanc is usually a light-bodied wine. For red wines, it's Cabernet Franc, Pinot Noir, and Beaujolais is the name of the wine. Gamay is the name of the grape that's behind the Beaujolais. And Valpolicella, that is another wine from the Veneto region in Italy. So, and that's always a blend. Medium-bodied wines. You'll see Sauvignon Blanc make an appearance again. It depends on how it was made. So it can be medium, it can be light-bodied. Same thing with Riesling. And this another grape called Gewürztraminer. You're nodding your head like you know this one. Okay. You know that grape variety.
good with Chinese food.
Yeah.
It is.
It cuts it, yeah.
Yes, it is. Red wine, Chianti, and Chianti is a place name. It's not the name of the grape. The name of the grape is Sangiovese. Pinot Noir can also be light or medium bodied and Merlot.
And again, your first order choice, if the food, if we talk now for pairing,
Yep.
if the food is on the lighter side, you want to match it with a lighter wine. Is that your general guideline?
Yeah, a good example. Yeah, a good example for a light bodied white wine. You want to pair it with if it's a delicate fish, a light flaky fish. You don't want a heavy wine. You definitely don't want red. No, we'll get into reds in a minute. But for something that you want a little body to it, if you're having, say, lobster with drawn butter, you won't want a light wine. You might want a full-bodied Chardonnay, a creamy Chardonnay to go with the butter.
I favor champagne with lobster.
You know, champagne is a great choice because if you don't really know how to pair something, if you're in a restaurant and and everybody's dining and having something different, get a sparkling wine. Sparkling wines are very acidic, which we're about to talk about, and the acid wines go great with food.
We've gotten in the habit,
And
we have lobster a lot from Market Basket,
All right.
and that has to be a bottle of champagne we open when we get our boiled lobster. Which is-
Sparkling wines go great with food. Yeah, just because of
Yeah,
this.
not just champagne, we use other sparkling wines too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, Prosecco's.
Prosecco.
Yeah, the general term for bubbly wines is sparkling wine. A lot of people use champagne as a general term, but it actually, to be champagne, has to come from the Champagne region in France. Everything else is sparkling.
Yeah, we used to just
You-
stick with champagne, but now there's a lot of other good ones and a lot cheaper.
There are, yeah. Cavas from Spain are only $10, $12. Prosecco from Italy, yeah. Full-bodied wines, again, Chardonnay, what we just talked about. Sometimes when you have a Chardonnay and lobster, if the Chardonnay if they aged it in an oak barrel, oak darkens, will darken the color, but it also it'll add more body to the wine. And there's another thing that they discovered what oak does. It introduces a substance called diacetyl, which smells buttery. That's where the smell comes from. And butter has diacetyl in it. So when you smell, if you swirl a Chardonnay and you think it's, a nice buttery Chardonnay people are talking about, well, if it smells like a little buttery, it is. It's because of that diacetyl compound. It's not a trick. It's really there. So some examples of full-bodied white and red wines. Okay, we're gonna do the second wine. Everybody finished the first wine. The second wine is called Muscadet. This is from the Loire Valley in France. This wine is known to be very acidic. The name of the grape is called Melon de Bourgogne, the melon of Burgundy. They think it may have originated in Burgundy, but right now it's they grow it mainly in the Loire Valley. They do grow it in California, but it thrives in the Loire Valley.
How do you develop this memory of the names and the bits and pieces? You keep it, and write it on your hand, like what's the face does?
No, you read a couple of thousand wine books and it's good.
I've done that myself.
Well, I'm immersed in it all the time, and a lot of repetition. I've studied, so, but after a while, you don't take it as a whole. The world of wine is huge.
Oh,
It's immense how big it is and how much there is to know, and you can never know everything.
Every time I go shopping, I always get 3 or 4 or 5 different wines that I haven't had before, and 1 or 2 that I've had before.
Isn't it fun?
Yes. But I always think I'm gonna make notes and stuff, and something I really
I
want.
bet there's an app that you can punch it in.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, sorry I'm late, I was at work.
Oh, that's okay. Did you want to sit? Do you want to sit over here? Or do you want me to bring the?
Sorry, two of those are all set up
What I'm going to do is we're going to be talking about acidic wines. So this is a Muscadet from the Loire Valley in France, and later on we'll give you the first wine that you missed.
Oh, okay.
So acidity is kind of like the opposite of sweetness. This is that tart taste in wine. So sometimes you can feel a little tingly sensation if you hold the wine in your mouth. When you sip it and you leave it there for a few seconds before you swallow it, you'll feel this tingly sensation. That's the tartness of the wine. That's the acid. A very acidic wine. These are the wines. Acidic wines go great with food. The whole point behind acidity, when grapes are ripening on the vine, when they start off, especially in the northern hemisphere, they start to grow in say early spring, around this time, April, and as the grape grows on the vine, it gets bigger. What happens inside the juice is getting more and more sugar. The sugar level is going up as the acid level is dropping. And in September or October, when they harvest the grape, they want to harvest it at the perfect balance between acidity and the sugar level. That's the perfect time to pick the grape. That's what they try for. If you leave it on the vine for too long, it's going to get very sugary, and it's the sugar that's going to get turned into alcohol. So they try and pick it when it's in perfect balance. Sometimes the weather doesn't cooperate.
Is this wine dry?
Muscadet is very dry.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Seems to me I've had muscadets that are quite different than this.
Muscadet is a pretty big district within the Loire Valley, so there are a lot of different ones. Yeah.
Could she be
But-
meaning Muscat, maybe?
I'm sorry.
Well, muscat is sweet, yeah. No.
Oh.
No.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Muscat,
Yeah.
yeah.
Muscat. A lot of people do
Right.
confuse it.
No.
Muscadet
That's-
is not. It's not even a place name.
Right.
It's just the name of the wine.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not the grape name. Muscat is a
Right.
grape that's usually sweet.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking it, this tastes a little thin.
It's definitely acidic. It's kind of, this one's a little bit medium body. It has a little more body to it than the first one you had.
This would be in that medium category.
Yes.
I guess I don't get the light and medium. To me, this is still light,
It's still what?
but that's because I don't understand it, I guess.
Well, do a good analogy with Milka. I thought that was,
Yeah.
that's a good way to think about it.
Well, because it's texture and it's not taste,
Ah,
you have to use an analogy that everybody's gonna know to try and get the point across.
that was-
But as you taste more and more wines, which you've already told me before we started,
Yeah, but that doesn't make me an expert at all.
well, it doesn't make a lot of us experts, but we keep at it.
Yeah.
We keep tasting all the time.
Mhm.
So, and it is very dry. So. You ever get the tingly sensation when you sip it? Yeah? That's the acid. So, again, this is, I'm gonna leave it here, and as you sip, I'm gonna leave this up on the screen, and then when you're done, I'll go to the next one and I'll tell you what the producer had to say about this one. Try it myself.
I always wonder how people get all those things out of this.
Yeah.
You often wonder what?
How all of those flavors can come out of this, the smell and the taste. I know that they all have some sort of, I don't know,
This-
focus on it, but I
this
can't
is-
find out.
well, this-
find out more.
What you're asking, what you're talking about is what is the most fascinating thing about wine and why people take classes. I mean, what you're doing here is you're taking a class on a beverage. I mean, why would you have to take a class on a drink? It's because of the complexity of wine. Wine, when you swirl it and sniff it, you very rarely smell grapes. It's made from grapes. That's the last thing you usually smell. Muscat that you mentioned can usually smell grapey. But most other wines smell like everything else but grapes. But it's
Right.
made from grapes. It's very complex. Yeah. So, and the more things that you can detect, we're getting into the definition of complexity. When you see people talk about, this is a very complex wine, you think, what are they talking about? They're detecting a lot of different things in that wine. It's usually an expensive wine if you get a lot of it. So, tasting notes. This is Guy Bossard from Muscadet who makes it. He's been making wine in that area from Loire Valley in France. He's a very famous producer. He says, dry, high in acid. Did you get the acid from this one? Medium body, medium alcohol. So Muscadets aren't usually high in alcohol. This one's probably about 12%. It is exactly 12%. A little more flavorful than the Trebbiano you had.
Yeah, that I agree.
And notes of apple and citrus.
And what would you try to match up with this? I think that this was a good one for,
The traditional or the traditional pairing with Muscadet is shellfish. Yeah. And that's what I would pair it with fish. What do you think of it? Anybody had Muscadet before? No, you're shaking your head.
Not my favorite.
It's not,
A little dry.
a little, okay. You like a little bit of, a little sweetness?
Or
usually?
tang, or fruit, or flour, or more, I don't know, body. It's thin to me
Okay.
and light.
All right, well, we're gonna keep trying. I got 6 wines, so you only had, this is the.
I missed the first one.
And you missed the first one, so.
Can I go backwards and take some of that just to try?
Yeah. That one might be, actually, yeah, would you wanna try the Trebbiano right now?
If you don't mind. I know it's going
I don't
backwards
mind.
in the taste
I
progression.
don't mind at all. I brought a whole bottle just in case.
how much can you draw a conclusion on relative to the year? So the year is the year in which it's picked, yes? How do you come, 20X was wonderful and better than 1943? And have you done a comparison of the same type from the same people
Yep.
and just changed as a function of year? And can you tell the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but yeah, you can. So can you. but a lot of people don't do that. You know, and the Olympics was, yeah, I'd never be able to tell this year from that year, but you'd be surprised sometimes it's very subtle, and even experts can't tell the difference, but a lot of times you can. It depends. Most wines, like 90+% of wines, are made to be drunk within the first 2 years of when they were produced. They're not made to last. You know, so you don't really have to worry too much about vintage.
Especially the type of wines we're likely to buy because it's the more expensive ones that,
Exactly.
that you can put aside.
But having saying that, having the vintage on the label is important because knowing that most wines now are produced to be consumed within a couple of years, you don't want to, if somebody wants to sell you an inexpensive wine, a jug wine from 1995, I would pass. So it's good to know that. But the vintage does play a lot because it depends on the weather. We got spoiled because we grew up in the United States and we drank California wine. California has a great climate; it's very consistent. So a lot of their wines are the same, although they do vary from vintage to vintage. But in France, they are France and Italy are the best producers of wine in the world, I think. But they have climates that just don't agree, with all the time. It can get cold in September, and they have to rush out there and start picking the grapes sooner than they would like to. They'd like to leave them out there, but if it freezes, they're going to lose the crop. So that won't be a good year. So things like that.
That's why Chile and Argentina, some of those places are doing so well because they have such consistent weather.
Well, that's what was said.
Well, Chile and Argentina have an advantage too because Chile and Argentina, those wines are not very expensive because the land in Chile and Argentina is not expensive, as opposed to say California land.
Right.
Labor is cheaper. They have natural irrigation from the Andes Mountains that separates the two countries. So they can make wine, put it in a bottle and ship it to the United States and still put it on the shelf cheaper than in America. Yeah. A lot of things affect the price.
Right.
So, other wines known for their acidity. You've seen some of these already. Riesling's very acidic. Sauvignon Blanc, usually very Champagne, we already talked about that. Champagne and sparkling wines, very acidic. Chablis is Chardonnay. At least if it's from France. If it's a product of France and it says Chablis on the label, it's always Chardonnay, 100%. Red wines, Pinot Noir is very acidic. Pinot Noir is another great. If you don't know what to order in a restaurant, everybody, you're with a group of people and everybody's ordering something different. Sparkling wine is a good choice. Pinot Noir is a good choice too.
Can you put a measure or a number on acidity? Remember pH and stuff like that? Or?
You can, but I mean, you can use your own palate to determine that. You don't need to look it up on the back label, but you can. Yeah, there are measurements for that too. Is your question?
Yeah, I had a question about Chardonnay and Chablis. Is there a difference between French Chardonnay and American California Chardonnay, or is French Chardonnay Chablis, or is there?
The reason I said if you see Chablis on a label, I have to qualify it because as long as it's a product of France, which has to be on the label by law,
Right.
the country of origin's got to be there,
Mm-hmm.
and it says Chablis, the grape behind it is going to be Chardonnay because the only grape they grow in the Chablis district of Burgundy is Chardonnay.
Is that the same grape that you get in California?
It's the same grape, yeah,
So it should be the same thing.
but it's not going to taste the same.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what.
because it's a different climate, different soil.
Different process.
Yeah, the French are big on. That's why they don't
Terroir.
That's why they don't put the grape variety on the label because they think where the grape grows is more important than what the grape is.
Mm.
That's why they only allow. That's why if you own land, if you're lucky enough to own land in Chablis district of Burgundy, and you wanted to grow Syrah, too bad you can't. It's the law. French are very strict. This grape goes great there. That's what you're going to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And are they right? Yeah. I think they are.
Well, they've been doing it for a lot of years, so they have a little bit of practice.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple thousand years. Amazing what you can learn in a couple thousand years. So, this is why we drink wine. You think it's because of taste. It's really smell. All these things that we've listed on these slides, citrus and peaches and all kinds of, people smell leather and all that stuff. And minerals, it's all smell, it's not taste. So, because most of what we are tasting, we are actually smelling. That's taste. Those four. Sweet, bitter, sour. Salt really doesn't apply too much to wine, although some people said that they had a salty wine. But sweet, bitter, sour, we're going to talk about bitter later on. That's really what wine. That's what taste is. And you can see how many different things you can smell. Not all of them in one wine, but and a lot of wines can smell like fruit. They can smell like vegetables. There are a lot of Sauvignon Blanc that smell, like green, bell pepper. There's a lot of vegetables too. And where do all these things come from? When the grapes are ripening on the vine, we'll give you some. When they ferment the grapes, when they bring them into the winery, start the fermentation process, and the aging process, the maturation process, can add even more. When you, a lot of people talk about, I love California Chardonnays because it's very, it's oaky. They like oaky wines, or some people hate oaky wines. Even the Chileans and the Argentinians. Chile will age their wines in oak barrels and ship it to the United States because they know Americans really like oaky wines. Oak, they found out later on, as it ages in an oak barrel, oak has a substance called vanilla, and it gets into the wine. So some people will swirl and smell a wine. I get hints of vanilla. It's not your imagination. That's how you can detect oak in wine, the smell of vanilla. So, and this is how we rate the wines, based on the level of sweetness or the tartness, and we'll get into bitter pretty soon. So this is what you can detect about 10,000 different scents. Most people detect about 1,000. Yeah.
Dogs? Not me.
All right, we're going on to the third white grape. This is called Viognier, and it is originally from the Loire Valley. The Rhone Valley in France. And this one is California. Everybody ready? Didn't mean to make it go. Viognier, they grow a lot of it in California. They were hoping that this grape would replace the popularity of Chardonnay. It didn't quite do that, but it is a great grape.
Where did you say it was grown in France?
The Rhone Valley. That's where it's from originally.
There's an extra.
Oh, okay. Well, you get an extra one, yeah. What I get for talking and pouring at the same time.
Better bits and pieces than expected.
What made you choose these wines?
A number of things. The major thing is the body. Whenever I teach this class, I have 3 white wines to explain what body and wine is. The first one's always a light-bodied wine. Second one is medium. This one's going to be a little bit heavier than the first two. Cost depends on what the budget is. So a lot of factors go into this. And the third reason is I could have used a Chardonnay.
I think you would.
I've taught this class. I change the varieties all the time. And the last time I taught this class, I was up in Newburyport, and people were intrigued with the different grape varieties. I've never heard of this. And then they swirl it and sniff it and taste it, and they said, hey, this isn't bad. So that's the whole point. So when you go into a wine shop or a liquor store or wherever you shop, to experiment with something different. Nobody really knows how many grape varieties there are. The prevailing opinion is of something like 5,000, and there are a couple of hundred of them commercially available at any time, so you don't always have to buy the same ones. Not Chardonnay, Cabernet, and Pinot Noir. There are others.
It's better. This is actually one of my
So,
favorite grapes.
This one is usually the alcohol content or the body is a little bit higher. Acidity can drop with a Viognier. It's not usually known for its acidity. Fuller body. Some people, when they smell it, they think it's going to be sweet.
Right. It does have that tang smell to it.
And what is the, that alcoholic content in this one?
What is the alcohol
Compared to the
content?
13th we had?
12%.
The last one was 12%. This one is
That might be-
13.8.
Why is there a range? I noticed some, or even less than 10, or I've seen that, for alcohol
I
percentage.
like it.
Um,
Or how does that happen? Is it from the grape, or is it from the fermentation?
a lot of it is from the grape. A lot of like German Rieslings. If you want a low in alcohol wine, like German Riesling
Mhm.
will have Rieslings in general.
Yeah.
Usually low in alcohol.
That's the grape.
Yeah, that was from the grape. Zinfandel, California Zinfandels, give you a range. Can usually run 14, 15, 16%.
That high?
That's different.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for California Zins. They can be a little poky.
I like
Oh.
It's very different.
it.
So the range for alcohol content, there's no proof like there is in liquor. It has to be on the label by law. It's gonna be the percentage of alcohol, and it can range from as low as something like 7% for like a German Riesling to as high as 16. Actually, as high as 20% if we're talking about port, sherry, and fortified wines like that.
Mm.
But most of them are around 13, 13 and a half.
Mm.
13 and a half is usually middle.
Seems to me I've read somewhere is that in the US, they sort of, and in response to it in France, they brought up the alcohol level because in the US, there seemed to be more of a desire for higher alcohol.
I think we've got used to it. California has that great climate,
Right.
and the longer you leave the grapes ripening on the vine, the more the sugar's climbing in the juice, and it's the sugar that's going to be turned into alcohol. So
Years ago, I think French wines, from what I've read, were lower than they are today, lower alcohol.
yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
Which is good, because you can drink more of it. That's why I was for low alcohol
That's a
wines.
nice. I like that positive thinking.
Because I love my wine, I
But-
don't want to get drunk.
But for low alcohol, Riesling is a good choice. Muscadet that you just had.
Yeah, that's very nice.
So here we go again. You've already been sipping and sniffing. We ready for the next?
Couldn't tell that.
No, those aren't all in here,
Yeah.
are they?
Yeah.
Somebody found all of it.
Leaves.
I know that. It's amazing.
It's part of the fun.
I know.
Once you get used to it, I mean, this is why when you look at wine drinkers, wine aficionados, and people just like the beverage, they never just take the drink and just swig it down. They're always doing this and swirling, getting the air. If you get some air into it, it'll open it up and it'll smell more. And they'll start talking about all these different things. This is what's so fascinating about wine.
What's acacia smell like?
I
Jason?
don't know.
It's a plant.
When's the last time
It's a
you ate
plant.
it?
You're gonna go to the next slide.
Okay.
This Viognier is called Victor Hugo from the central coast of California.
They're more flowery composition.
Aromas of jasmine and apricot and peaches. And even some
Apricot,
almond.
that's the one, strong apricot, that's what, no,
Okay.
that's what strong.
Some people can get, some people will get, the almond, some people will get jasmines. It depends.
Yeah.
If you cook a lot, and if you're used to, different smells from cooking, you can pick up a lot of this better than people who don't cook.
Again, food pairing for this guy would be,
Something hefty, something with, like cream sauces, because this is a fuller bodied wine. Something with, something that's a creamier dish.
See if I like it anyways.
Do you like it?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody like Viognier?
Yeah, I'm like
Anybody
all-
ever had it before?
Not this one.
not this.
The grape you've had before? Just not this one?
No, I
No?
don't think so.
I like a Viognier blend,
So did this one appeal to you
yes.
than those other wimpy Muscadets and Trebbianos? You're still getting better?
Yes,
Oh, good.
wimpy, I like that description.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Acid, lees.
Lease is, lease means yeast cells that have,
Oh, I didn't know.
well, yeast eat the sugar that produce the alcohol. That's why we all drinking wine, because of what the yeast do. And eventually they die off. And occasionally they'll just leave the yeast cells in the wine for a little while, and it's called lease. The French call it lease. And it can produce different flavors in the wine. And eventually it gets filtered out. So. Yep. Muscadet, the second wine, is known for that. They'll even put it on the bottle. They'll say Muscadet sur Lie, S-U-R, 2 words, S-U-R space L-I-E. It means it was left on its lease for a while, for months, and it changes the flavor. And they love it. And it adds a little spritz. It almost feels like it's, yeah, almost. Yeah. So we're getting into some fruits. White wine. Whenever you're explaining or talking about a white wine, and these are the types of fruits that you can usually smell from a white wine. Citrusy type things. Peach, apricot. You don't usually talk about these types of fruits with a red wine. But for red wines, it's usually these berry type fruits. It's different. So now the next one, the very first red. Everybody ready? This one's called Barbera from Italy. It's a blend of this one in particular is a blend of 2 grapes, Forbina and Rondinella.
What percent?
I think it's 70% Forbina and 30% Rondinella. I can look it up.
And when they define the blend, is the first thing always more of than the second thing? Is that?
Yeah, if it's listed with one, the one listed first, we usually have
What would be
one.
the more?
Usually, yeah. So this wine was chosen because it's a red, but it's lighter in body.
Wine tastes good after the second bottle.
After this. Bardolino on the label is the village where it's from, up in northern Italy. So it's red, but it's kind of, there are a lot of darker reds than that one. And traditionally, Bardolino can be they're usually a blend of 3 different grapes. This one just happens to be just 2. Molinara is the 3rd. So, Rondinella, it's kind of like, this is one of the major reasons why it's a blend. The Rondinella grape is like, it's kind of neutral tastings, so they prefer to use that as, that's why you don't see Rondinella on the label being like 100% Rondinella wine. It's just too neutral, so they blend it with other things. But it produces high yields, meaning that you can grow a lot of it. So producers like it because it thrives. You can grow a lot of it, so you can use it in a lot of wines. So just a little, so as you're swirling, sniffing, and tasting, remember red wines are known for their berry type fruits. What do you think of this?
Nice. I'll give
Is this the most expensive wine of all of them so far? I'm just curious.
Which one is the most expensive of the six?
Ones we, yeah.
What is this supposed to be? I think it's, well, we'll find out at the last slide, but I think it's the Viognier.
How about something about this, you know, does this have sexy legs or non-sexy legs or whatever?
I don't know, you tell me, what do you think?
I don't know, legs.
Very light.
Legs just means alcohol content. It's not, it used to be known, people used to think legs, meaning the drips on the inside of the glass, that was a sign of quality. Well, it's a crock. It isn't. It's just a sign of alcohol. If it's,
This is not leggy.
this is a light-bodied wine. If it's a fuller bodied wine, it will have more legs.
And how about that invisible first layer or something that somebody said? Does that mean something? Just the rim of the clarity of the ray?
First, say
Well,
that
when you
again.
look at it, the very
Yeah.
tip top.
The very tip of the top
Yes,
of the
that's
surface
what
of the
you
wine.
can see it
Yeah.
more on the side.
Yeah, and what are you looking for?
I don't know.
Thin,
Oh, okay.
clear layer.
It's later.
A clear layer. I haven't heard that.
I
A
can
clear.
see it. It's-
Somebody told you to look for a clear layer across the top of the
But
wine?
I'm trying to remember what they were talking about. I'm not sure what they were talking about.
No, that's,
That was on our last, that was in Chile.
Oh.
they said something about the layer is indicative of, I have no idea.
It's not just from the
Alright.
glass or something?
Well,
No.
something else I can look up.
Yeah.
So again, it's just the rim, so to speak.
The rim, you can see the white rim more.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, you can have a lighter rib. Is that what they were talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, and
But-
I'm not sure what that was supposed to signify.
Okay. The age of the wine, because sometimes that, you know, that might, maybe that's what they were talking about.
No, you don't, we don't.
What do people think about this?
Very nice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
This is a nice, this one, it kind of got a little bit warmer, but this one you can serve it a little bit chilled. It's a red wine, it's lighter in body, and you can serve it, you know, most wines should be served not room temperature. You know, not 72 degrees, but, you know, like low 60s
Yeah,
would be preferable. White wine's colder than that, like in the
that's
50
why we
degrees
keep
or
saying we're gonna get a little refrigerated wine.
But you can-
refrigerator.
something. But this one could be, just, it could be drunk like a white wine.
Uh-huh.
On a scale of dryness, this is sort of dry, or?
That's dry. Oh, boy, that's fruity. It's very fruity.
Yeah, I think it's very good.
So, what? Aromas of raspberries, red berries, and spices. Red berries, raspberries? No?
That color's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, legs we heard, that rim we heard.
This one came in a liter bottle. Usually bottle sizes are 750 milliliters. What's what these are? It's the standard bottle size. But this one's a liter. It's very, and it's not heavy. I mean, it's surprising.
How about the box stuff versus the bottle stuff? Any comments there?
There are some boxed wines that are pretty good. I wouldn't dispense with it. I'm not a big fan, but there are some boxed wines that are good.
And the forever argument of corks versus plastic, or?
No big deal.
I like the cork.
Yeah, but more and more, and
But-
we'll
but
find the.
Getting back to what I said, most wines, and 90+% wines are meant to be drunk within a couple of years. If it has a screw cap on it, so what?
Right,
Ah,
right, that's
So,
what,
if you're gonna store it in your cellar for 20 years, a screw cap may not be a good idea, but the screw cap people might have a say about that though.
yeah, because they're keep devising new types of.
Well, the cork industry has started losing market share, so they're making a better product too.
But
Corks,
then again,
the quality of corks have gotten better.
yeah, but cork is.
And you don't need special tools.
Yeah, but that's part of the fun, you know.
Part of the romance of the wine.
Oh, yeah,
I like
you
that.
don't cut yourself.
I like to crack open the twist off.
No, other wines over there, Riesling again, Sauvignon Blanc, these are all fruity wines. Yeah, for red Cabernet Sauvignon,
Mhm.
a lot of berry fruits in Merlot and Pinot Noir. So, we're up to the fifth wine. How you doing on the Bartolino? Oh, okay, that's gone. You liked it?
Yeah.
This grape is called Barbera. Got a little more body than the Bartolino you just had.
After the second bottle.
So we're on your chart.
What's that? Yeah, oh, that's right, you came in late. Yeah, we added a sixth wine. Oh,
Five
yeah,
and
it's
six,
around there.
and this is five.
So this one's called Triple Pavesa Barbera. Barbera is the name of the grape.
Well, they want to do so many wines because we know
Why is it women mineral water white wine or mineral water red wine?
I don't know, why is that?
Not necessarily.
I don't really.
All these women here, you know,
That's an old Italian myth.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Part of my later foods too, I love them all.
There's actually a restaurant, woman will order white wine.
But I somehow think it's
You know,
not,
I
it's
mean,
less
like order a
alcoholic.
heavy steak,
That's what
I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna, whereas a woman might order a
Yeah,
salad.
that's one,
I think
goes
we have
good with
sweeter
spaghetti,
wines,
Mhm.
which tend to be the white type.
Or steak.
Yeah.
Because of the shop that all these wines came from that shop, Wine Sense in Andover. And they're all, ooh, that's good. All these wines are, the owner specializes in wines that are from
Oh, yeah.
smaller producers. These aren't mass produced by huge companies. They're small producers, a lot of them are organic and biodynamic. So, and if it's organic, means no pesticides, no chemicals when they made the wine, and the fruit comes out. That's why I like using wines like this to demonstrate smell, because very few chemicals involved with wine.
And how about commentary on sulfites, non-sulfites, I got sulfites.
There's
I don't want
they all have
sulfites.
sulfites.
Exactly. All wines have sulfites because when you ferment grapes, sulfites, which is sulfur dioxide, it's a byproduct of fermentation. So you cannot make wine without producing alcohol and sulfites. The US government measures sulfites in parts per million, ppm, and they tell producers in the United States that if you make a wine and it has more than 10 parts per million, which is pretty low, you're gonna have to put contained sulfites on the label. It's gotta be there because people are allergic, so by law. The US government didn't say where on the label it has to be, so you'll find it buried in a corner somewhere, but it's gotta be there. If they can produce a wine that's lower than 10 parts per million, they don't have to put the warning on.
But all wine has sulfites in
But all wines have sulfite. Yep. Yep.
One
And most, okay, sorry.
it. Even
Um,
organic wines have sulfites.
Well, all wines, just because it's wine, it's gonna have some measure of sulfites in it. There's no sulfite-free wine. But most winemakers, wine producers, regardless of country, will add sulfites to the wine. They add more. They can do it out in the field where the grapes are growing in powdered form to kill any funguses that might be out there. Funguses?
Fungi.
Fungi?
Fungi from the-
They can do it in the winery to cleanse the barrels, to kill any organisms that might be there. Or they might do it just before it's bottling. So wine is a very pure, there's nothing in here that's gonna harm you. So it's very difficult to make wine without adding sulfites. But organic and biodynamic's not allowed, you can't do it. But those people who make an organic wine are allowed to put no sulfites added on the label. And a lot of people think, oh look, no sulfites added, so it's sulfite free. That's not what it means. It means
No additional
literally.
sulfites added.
Take it literally, no sulfites were added, but it does not mean it's no sulfite free.
And
Did that-
how is that by composition, by volume? Is it a measurable characteristic or?
Sulfites, the US government measures it in parts per
Oh,
million.
you said.
But they don't
Yeah.
put it on the label, it's just sulfites.
And even foreign producers, if you wanna sell your wine here,
Yeah,
and the United States, I believe, right now, is the largest consumers of wine in the world. Isn't that cool? So, good job, everybody.
We're stressed, we need more.
What's that, Mike?
I said, we're stressed, we need
Well,
more.
Yeah, I think I thought the numbers were different in terms of per person amount, but.
Well, maybe I misunderstood, what was it?
No, yeah, that's two different things.
Yeah.
The total consumption rather than
Right,
per
right.
person,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean-
total
Well, the
consumption.
reason, are you talking about why would number one is because you're just doing more Americans. It's
Yeah,
almost
right,
300 million
yeah,
Americans,
right.
more than French or Italians.
Right.
Yeah.
But they produce more than we do. Right.
So would this wine, would the taste significantly change if you let it breathe? Like, would it taste better?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah. A lot of times when you first pop the cork and pour yourself a glass and you swirl and sniff and you smell it and you think, I don't smell anything. It's not bad, it's not good, it's like nothing. I don't smell anything, and I thought everybody's like, wine's supposed to smell. Well, swirl it. When you swirl, you're getting the air is what, oxygen is what's gonna get the aromatics going. That's why people swirl. And oftentimes, the second glass, if you drink the first glass, and you didn't smell anything, the second glass might be more aromatic than the first, because the air is starting to get at it, if you haven't.
Here's to the third.
Here's to the third. Okay. Yeah, when a wine, when you first open it and you don't smell anything, they say the wine is closed. It has to open up. It just means air is gonna get at it. Once air gets at it, it opens up the aromatics, and it's, ironically, air is what's gonna kill it over time, if you don't finish
So a little
it.
air is good, not too much air is bad.
Exactly, there's a good time.
How long did you let those breathe?
How long you
How
live?
long were those bottles open before we
Oh,
drank them tonight?
they start to lose, their effectiveness. When you swirl it and smell it and you think, wow, this is a great wine. Tomorrow, it's not gonna be vinegar, it's not gonna be bad, it just won't be as aromatic as it was today. It's gonna start losing a little. But this doesn't mean that this wine is vinegar after a couple days. Put it in the fridge. Reds or whites, no matter what it is, if you open a bottle and you haven't finished it, put the cork back in nice and tight, throw it in the fridge. And if it's a red, pull it out, half an hour before you're gonna start drinking it. I do this all the time.
How about comments on decanting? Is that a good thing, a waste of time?
That's on.
No,
that's on
decanting is a
hold.
very good thing. Yeah. A lot of wines are made with, they have sediment in them. And it's only because whoever the producer was didn't filter it on purpose. I mean, the Europeans are big on this. But the French and the Italians, they think that if you over-filter all the stuff out, you're losing some of the flavor. So even American producers now are leaving the sediment in, so at the bottom of the glass you'll get some sediment. It's not gonna kill you, it's just some of the solids from the winemaking process. And they think that's a lot of the flavors there. So, my wife used to be grossed out by not anymore. She says, she look at the sediment, she says, that was a real good wine, wasn't it? I said, yes, yes it was. Yeah. There were, years ago, there's a substance called tartaric acid. There are a lot of acids in wine. One of them is tartaric acid. And they filter it out. You hardly ever see tartaric acid in the wine anymore, because when you were finished, it looked like, to me it looks like dissolved sugar. But some, undissolved sugar. Some people thought it looked like glass and they got nervous. They started taking the bottles back. They said, no, it's just tartaric acid. It's nothing to harm you. And so, but the producers got sick and tired of having their wines returned, so now they filter it all out. But it's not bad. There's nothing in wine, like I said, with all the sulfites and all the, this is a very pure drink. That's why we pair wine with food now, because 1,000 years ago, or in the Middle Ages, they used to have food and they'd drink water with it and they'd get sick. And then the next time they'd have food and they'd have wine, they didn't get sick. And I said, okay, let's drink wine instead. They didn't understand sanitation back then, so.
Well, it does eat cholesterol, so.
Oh, let's see. Deep in color, this one's much darker, well, it was before you drank it.
Before it's
I've been
on.
talking too much. Deep in color than the Barbolino you just had. This one's not overly tannic, but we haven't talked about that yet. Barbera pairs very well with food because of the acidity, and it can be fruity, which this one, actually, this one is. Spicy, sometimes you can smell like black pepper, white pepper in wine. It's some common, and earthy, you can just smell the earth. So, here's some of the flavors you can get from the smells you can get from Barbera. Anybody want a little more?
Okay.
Let's try it.
Twist our arms.
Arm twisted over there.
What year was the Barbera?
2010.
Oops, sorry. 2010? Anyone else?
Yes.
More Barbera?
Yeah, a little bit.
What is the company?
Oh, triple pavesa. Triple pavesa. This is actually, I think actually the producer is called Martilda. It's over here. That's the producer, Martilda. Yep.
Under?
Where is it from?
Old Tripa Pavesa is the place name.
Yeah.
Piedmont.
Someone put her back in.
So you like this one?
Yeah.
That was very nice.
Yeah. Oops, sorry. And I believe this,
Did you like this one?
I think it's cost like $12.
Oh, nice.
Barbera?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, please.
Well, we're gonna do a
Well,
little.
that's why I was wondering whether you had some of this after the other one, because I really like this one,
You really like this?
but I wanna taste the other one before I taste this again.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll try this one.
Alright.
And I'll tell them
Yeah, well, there's a price list at the end, just so people know. So, if you're ready. Alright,
Well, there it is.
Oh,
cherry. Lots of cherry?
Chocolate on the finish?
I changed my mind after I read it, so I can go over this.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have to learn some languages when you study wine, don't you? Correct
Yeah.
pronunciation.
I have to, I can sometimes confuse place names like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. It's, when you get into wine education, my education never ends. And instead of intimidating me, I just want to know more.
What about aerating? Like the aerators that people buy for wine?
Yeah, some of them are very good. Yeah.
But do all wines need aerating? Are they all better aerated?
Not all wines, but you're going to determine whether you think a wine should be aerated. So
Someone said
most
3 years
wines you
or
can
older.
just. I'm sorry.
3 years or older.
Well, 3 years. Yeah, well, aerating could help it, yeah. But you get some wines that you've had for 3 years. Try it. When you open it, and pop the cork and pour it, and pour yourself a little bit, swirl and sniff, and taste it. And then aerate the next one, and you can determine whether you think the rest of it should be aerated or not. Yeah, they make these aerators, and I'm trying to think of the name of it. You aerate by the glass.
Right,
You just pour it right in, and they're great. And I can't think of I'm trying to think of the name of it. I forgot.
when somebody says, let's talk about red for a moment, and somebody says, this wine, it's no good, what characteristic jumps out, do you think, as the worst way of saying, I don't think that's a good wine?
You mean that you think that somebody's telling you that the wine is spoiled? That
Yeah,
it's
yes,
spoiled?
what characteristic would be the first that might come to mind?
Sour.
vinegar.
Well, yeah, it's gone, yeah, it could have,
Isn't that called cork?
Sour.
yeah.
I know how odd
Well,
that is,
cork-
but cork
Yeah,
is
cork
bad
can make
for-
cork can make it smell like cardboard.
But I mean, when the wine is spoiled, isn't that called corked?
It's one of
Wine
the,
is
that's
cork.
one of the things.
And that taste would
That's
be
cork.
sourness that would.
Like a
dominate-
vinegary.
Vinegar.
Vinegar.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the books I read defined wine as it's grape juice on its way to becoming vinegar.
Yeah, to catch you at the right moment.
Yeah, so we're drinking it right in the middle.
Right.
Very cool.
Tannin. Tannin. So this is where that bitterness comes into play. This is that, the best way to explain it, if you don't know what this is when you're steeping tea and you leave it on the counter and you forgot about it and then you take a sip of that tea and how it just seals up your mouth, it's like, just dries out your mouth.
Puckery, definitely.
That's
puckery.
tannin. That's tannin in the tea. Well, red wine has a lot of tannin too. Some wines can. Most of it, in all those 90+% wines that are made to be drunk within 1 or 2 years, a lot of the tannin has been filtered out. That's why you can drink it right away. But tannin is a preservative. Just a natural thing. Nobody put it in there.
Yeah, are tannins more present in red wines than white?
Yes, because tannin comes from the skin of the grape, not the juice.
Yeah, because I
That's
have a friend who
Yeah.
gets headaches when she drinks red wine.
Oh. And she,
But then I read that, I think it was, well, was low, the Barbera was low in tannin, and I think maybe there's a Pinot Noir or something like that that's low in tannin too. but you
Pinot
can't-
Noir is not an overly tannic
Yeah,
grape.
and she can drink those, but she
Oh.
can't drink the other reds.
Because of the aesthetic.
Tannin, because of tannin.
Yeah, I think
I thought it was sulfur.
there are a lot of theories about why people get headaches. And some people get headaches from white wine.
Yeah,
They can
that's
drink
what
red-
they told us in, one of our classes, that more people get problems with white, it's just that somehow or other, red's gotten the bad name, but.
Yeah, but there's so many different, well, some people blame sulfites
Sulfites,
and tannin, I haven't heard before.
I like
But the last time I ever read anything about why people get headaches from wine, they were isolating 2 substances. One of them is called tyramine, Tyramine, or histamine. But they don't know.
Yeah, I found an article, in fact, that said that it was the
You don't
It
tannin.
was tannin?
Yeah.
It's a recent
And
article.
invention of Pinot Noir as
It doesn't taste like
possibly
it did when
being
you taste it
Oh.
the first
something
time.
she could drink.
Pinot Noir has some tannin, but not a lot.
Yeah.
But can this person drink
It's
white wine?
amazing the way you
Because
can tell
there's
difference.
there can be some tannin
So
in
the
white
wine
wine.
tasting,
but
you
usually there's not
Well, she
red.
drinks drinks red wine,
When I was a
generally.
kid.
Okay, but when she wants to get into red, it's usually Pinot.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, she just didn't drink any, and then I saw this article, and now she's drinking some Pinot
Yeah.
Noir.
But something that has changed.
But
So,
it said this
Yeah.
Barbera was low in tannin, so I wonder
That might be,
if she might be able to try that.
but yeah, that's a question when you, if you're gonna go shopping, that's a question for a wine shop. Because they can, like in wine sets, they can answer questions like that.
but it's also elusive. One of the things, in 3 weeks of drinking wine every day, I've never had a headache, and drank plenty of it. One of the things they said is there can be a lot more sulfites in some of their exported wines on the cheaper end, because they could go bad with travel and everything, so that they're not as careful with the cheaper wines as they are. I got home, first night I had wine, it was Chilean wine, I got a headache. You could say it was due to the imported wine, etc., but then again, I was just tired, and
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows what happens when that does
Well,
happen.
we need to qualify cheaper wine. You can get a $10 wine that is phenomenal. Well made, it doesn't necessarily have to do with just the cost. A cheap wine would be a jug wine, and the big bottles.
Carlo Rossi.
Exactly, yeah, and the way those wines are made, besides the fact that they don't care about, it's volume. They want lots of grapevines, they don't care what climate the grapevines are growing in, it's just volume. And they use another thing called mega purple, which is grape extract. So if you have a jug wine and it tastes a little bit syrupy, well, that's why. And nobody will admit to ever using it, but it's perfectly legal. It's not gonna hurt you, but it just doesn't taste that good. But that's a cheap wine, not necessarily inexpensive. different from inexpensive. So, there's more tannin in red grapes because it comes from the skin and the color of wine. Why red wine is red is because of the skin. Even if you cut open a red grape and look at the juice, the juice is white inside, so it gets the color from the skin. And oak barrels also has tannin, can add even more. So there you go, Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah are just two examples of highly tannic wine, and we just talked about Pinot Noir being low in tannin. So, and now we're up to number 6.
There we go.
This can be high in tannin, that's why it was chosen for this class. It can be high in alcohol, moderate acidity. Everybody ready for wine number 6? This is called Domaine de Saint-Antoine Merlot, and it's from southern France.
Any general comments about South African wines?
They're very good. South Africa does a super job.
They've done a reasonable job.
I had some good Australian.
Australian, I've heard were nice.
Yeah.
Jim Crawford, Sauvignon Blanc.
Your invisible friend had a glass, huh?
2 weeks away.
Yeah.
It was just sitting there.
Yeah, God. What are you gonna do? It's all gonna evaporate anyway.
Right.
Do you associate wine with food in some place? Like what goes with spaghetti?
I do that in another class.
Oh, okay.
A pairing
Yeah.
class.
There's so much to talk about. We have to break it up into different classes.
Okay.
Do you serve food with Blanc wine?
This is different.
Because of usually I have crackers and cheese,
The way
but because of the budget, I didn't want to go over budget with the library, that's all. But usually I have, when I teach at the wine shop, we usually have bread or crackers and cheese or something.
They don't have steak and spaghetti and stuff like that.
I was teaching at the Neutral Community College, and I did a class, and I had to bring in all the food, and I think I did it. I mean, the reviews were good, but it was a nightmare for me. I mean, it was very difficult to because I wanted to pair Chianti with Italian food, but I can't whip up some. There was nothing to cook with, so I brought in pizza. So that's Italian. I brought in Italian food. You know, it had a lot of spaghetti, and it was like, you
I
know.
think it's more American than.
Well,
No,
I'm trying to.
You go to Italy and you get some great pizzas.
I had
When
to.
we went, we couldn't find any at
Oh,
all.
really? Oh, come on.
Anywhere.
We went with the Italians who brought us to
This
some
was in the
great.
1960s.
We were there in the 70s and we went to some great Italian,
Mm.
that people brought
We
us
went to
in
the
Milan.
place, we went to the place that was recommended, and
Yeah, wasn't a hit.
it wasn't.
Nice
a
thin
hit.
crust, beautiful pizza with all
Maybe
kinds
they know now that Americans.
Really?
Pizza.
It was the best thing I could think of to pair a Chianti,
Yeah.
because I had nothing to heat food up with. There was no stove. And so I had a pizza shop, and I told them the class is going to start at 6:30, and I'm going to have to start with the Chianti because I want you to deliver it exactly 6:30. They came too early. I had to send them away. So timing was, it was actually a nightmare. The people seemed to enjoy it. It was really a nightmare for me.
Yeah, well. This is nice too.
So, Merlot.
Yeah, always a hit.
Merlot has a lot of aromas to it. And the next slide will show you what do you think of it?
I'm used to drinking a lot of Merlots, but so far, the Barbera was a real hit.
Oh, Barbera was the real hit.
That's my
Yeah.
favorite.
Do you get the tannin from this?
I like
Mhm.
the,
Do you get the pepper? If you leave it in your mouth, do you get the peppery feeling from the tannin?
It's pretty dry to me, but.
Yeah, it is dry.
What
Yeah,
does
there
the
were no-
bar box taste like or smell like?
Scott, it can be like cedary.
I feel the puckering,
You feel it?
Dryness, yeah. Yeah,
the
you feel it.
tannin.
But it is
Is
so
it-
different when you're just drinking
Yeah.
the wine rather than having it with food.
Right,
Yeah, totally different.
exactly,
Yeah.
yep. You're absolutely right.
And then to match those wines throughout the meal is, pretty nice.
So,
The licorice.
plum, black, licorice, I didn't get the licorice, but it has a lot of tannin to it.
Gripping too.
Yes.
And this was 29.
Yeah. Oh,
And it's really dry. 14%.
Is that what it was?
yeah.
This is alcohol is 14%.
Oh, that's good.
So just some other grape varieties that are known for tannin, Syrah, Barolo, Cabernet definitely. Barbaresco and Barolo are place names in Italy. The name of the grape is Nebbiolo that makes those wines.
You haven't had a Medoc in any of these wines?
From the 6 that you had,
Yeah.
no, I didn't.
Or even, the wines known for this and that? Is it just not?
Why did I leave out Medoc?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of wines I've actually done this class.
No, I'm just wondering if it's just something that's not very popular or,
You know, I've done this class more than any other class of all the things that I do. And I could use the same 6 grapes, 6 wines over and over again, but I never do. I always change them, just to give it a lot of variety. And so I probably have used Medoc at one point, but there's so many different wines out there.
yeah. No, but I mean, what you show, wines known for tannins and wines known for this and that and.
I wouldn't pick a McDonald's.
Yeah, why, you don't,
Oh no, I'm not disparaging against Medoc. I love Medoc. That's Bordeaux. That's a Bordeaux. Medoc is a district in the region, the Bordeaux region in France.
yeah, the
And
ones
it's
I-
usually
yeah,
Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. So very tan.
yeah.
That's our.
Yeah, you're right. I could have used that grape tonight.
It's just something that I've learned about and enjoyed, so I was looking for it, but I didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, no, this one was just Merlot.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, we recommend Malbec as an interesting one.
Malbec's
Oh,
a
Malbec, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
those,
yeah,
good.
Malbec.
Right, and I have used Malbec in this
yeah,
class
they're
before
very
too.
price effective, I think that's very nice. This is super.
So, that other term we talked about, we've gone through a number of things. We talked about body and acidity, and we talked about fruit and tannin. So balance. This is when you're swirling and sniffing a wine and you're tasting it, and you get some fruit, you get acidity, you get all these things in the wine, but nothing is dominating the others. That's what balance means. That wine's in perfect harmony. That's what that means. So another way, when we talked about acidity, acidity kind of, when the wine is very acidic, it makes your mouth water, or it can. Tannin dries out your mouth. There's another way of saying that it's in perfect balance when you go to this. So, these are the things, so we talked about body, acidity, fruit, not too much about spice, but you can get from a lot of red wines, white pepper, black pepper, a lot of different spices in wines. We talked about tannin, balance, structure is what makes up all these things. I mean, all these things make up what the wine structure, that's what it is. And complexity, if you smell a lot of different things in the wine, you get a lot of different fruits, you get minerals, that's a complex wine.
Super.
So, remember this? When you first came in, I showed you this. So, and you kind of wonder, what the heck? I yanked this out of a magazine a few years ago, and what he's talking about, and he's reviewing a wine. This is his job. And he's saying it's thick and rich, so it's got a lot of body. This is a full-bodied wine with hedonistic black fruit. So he's talking about he's smelling it, and it's got black fruit, berry fruit aromas in it, with accents of leather and tobacco. So with a red wine, you're going to get smells like that from a really good. This one happens to be Cabernet Sauvignon and olive, and I've smelled olive in a good. That's what he's talking about. So in the second sentence, in the mouth, Okay, he smelt it with the first sentence. The second sentence, he's now tasting it. In the mouth, everything comes together in a commendable knit. It's in balance. They just don't like to say balance over and over again, so they come up with something else. But that's what he's just, yeah, he's just saying it's in perfect balance, and it doesn't sacrifice anything. It's all there. Berry fruits, herbal accents, tannins. He liked this wine. That's a good review. That's all he's talking about. That's all it is. So, here's a little quote from Benjamin. I taught this class a few years ago, and somebody in the audience said, "Hey, he said the same thing about beer." Well, maybe he did, I don't know.
I think of a more, well, he did spend a lot of time in France.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's true.
Oh,
He
love
did.
it.
He did. So,
On my high school.
anyway. So what's the whole point of this class? That the reason I've changed this class, I mean, I've done it more often than any other, and I've changed it more often, just based on questions that people ask. And the whole point of this is, so many people ask me, how do you, they ask me, what's your favorite wine? Well, that's great, but it's, if I picked one of these, and actually that happened once, somebody asked me, so of these 6, what's your favorite wine? And I said, well, wine number 4. And she said, oh, I didn't like number 4. Well, since you liked it, I'll try it again. Okay, and I realized, no, this is not the point here. It's nothing to do with what my favorite is, it's what you like. And what I'm trying to do is teach you, how do you walk into a wine shop? Because most people shop for wine by looking at labels, and well, that's a nice looking label, I guess I'll buy that one. Or it says Chardonnay on it, I know what that tastes like, so I'll buy that. But if you can articulate, if you can walk into a wine shop and you know the person behind the counter knows something about wine, you can say, well, I'm looking at all these wine bottles and I don't even know where to begin, but I can tell you I like white wine more than red. Okay, you just eliminated half the shop. This is a start. I like white wines that are light in body. Okay, good, you're narrowing it down. I like them with some acidity. Well, the person behind the counter is translating this, and they're gonna zero in on things that you like. That's the whole point of this class. Or if you like red wines, you can say, I like reds. Again, you eliminated the other half of the shop. With some tannin to it. So you want something with some body. You're saying something about your palate, not what some critic said. Because actually that critic is, I forgot his name, but what he wrote about a wine, this is his job, but that's his palate. You might taste that Cabernet Sauvignon that he was talking about, that he loved, you might hate it. Your palate's different. So this is why I'm trying to design this course, by trying to teach you something about your palate, so that you can go in there and give the language of wine. What can you say about you that the person on the other side of the counter in a wine shop can translate it and help you pick out a wine? And this is how wine should be sold.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So there's gonna be a wine tasting here on Saturday.
Yep.
How do you, what is the etiquette for tasting wine? There are gonna be several vendors, and if you try every wine and you drink that much of every wine, by the end of it, everything's gonna taste the same.
Yeah.
So, you see people that spit the wine back, what do you do so you could really try each wine and,
So how can you, so on Saturday night, there's gonna be a lot of different wines.
yeah.
Okay. When you go to wine expos in Boston, where they have, it's gonna be even bigger, like at the beginning of the year, they always have, they advertise 400 wines for you. You can't drink 400 wines. What you wanna do is, you can't spit, it's okay, there's gonna be a big bucket there.
But do you spit into the bucket, or do you spit into your glass?
No, you can, they'll give you probably just a little taste of each wine. You can swirl it and then take it into your mouth. You don't have to swallow it. Just get a taste of the wine. And then you can spit it right into the bucket, and it's perfectly acceptable.
It is?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
What's
Yeah.
not
No,
acceptable
that's
is to
fine.
go around and taste 400 wines and get completely blitzed.
It's always a paper cup.
So it,
No,
it's,
it is, because you're sipping alcohol, and you're absolutely right. If you keep sipping a lot of different wines, your taste buds are shot after a while.
Oh,
You're not
yeah.
gonna taste anything.
and so would you suggest you try the whites that you're interested in first, and then move over to the dark, to the reds? Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
If you like, what you can do is, if there're gonna be a lot, when I go to wine tastings and they have so many wines, well, I'm gonna do a lot of spitting anyway, but I'll zero in on just the ones that I like, and I'll ignore everything else.
So do you bring the bucket close to you, or, I mean, that's the whole part.
Yeah, actually, it's probably safer to, if there are a lot of people, it's probably safer to pick up the bucket and then spit into it,
Okay.
because if you do this, somebody else might be spitting, and they might hit you right in the back of the head.
I just,
So-
I've always wanted to ask this question, but I've
No,
never been able to.
that's okay. I think it's safer to pick up the bucket and spit into it.
Okay.
And then- Or, it depends on how many people are around you.
Yeah, bring your own bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might wanna proceed from dry to sweet, or sweet to dry, but
Yeah,
dry to sweet.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, that's a good
By the way, I
point.
think this was super, a couple of comments.
Yep.
There's an interesting place in Woburn called the Beer and Wine Hobby.
The beer and wine hobby.
And they're super because they helped me make wine. It's right in Woburn, it's
Okay.
buried in the back, and they're great. They have all of it, you can buy grapes there, by the way, and you can buy the extract, and you can buy all of the stuff and totally make a mess in your house if you wanna try to make your own wine. But I'd suggest anyone that's interested, they have a huge library, they're very helpful. When I took a shot at making some stuff, I could call up and they give you stuff to measure. So it's Beer and Wine Hobby in Woburn, right at the intersection of 93 and 128.
Okay.
And they're very, very nice, and they'll either give you the grapes and the bits and pieces to make it, or the wine concentrate, and you're gonna have a great time doing it.
So this is for people who wanna make one?
Go wanna make it or try it and see all of the equipment and the measuring stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting.
And all kinds of corks, and they're very, it's low priced, it's very, very nice.
Okay.
You can make beer, so that's one. The other place I might suggest in Somerville, Winecast does a nice job. There are courses at the Boston Center for Adult Education, the Cambridge Center for Adult Education, and they do a nice job if you like all of these things.
But we wanna know where you took your courses.
Yeah, well, he said in Boston.
Yeah, I got certification from the Society of Wine Educators.
Without taking certification courses, can you recommend any other courses?
Yes, I teach
Fine.
at Wine Sense in Andover. We
Uh-huh.
do classes there all the time.
Oh.
So we do general class like this one,
Mhm.
and we take requests too. I mean, if you wanna learn something about wine, let us know.
Yeah.
In fact, I get the wines at Wine Sense at One Shop, and they're on the placemat there.
Mhm.
And if you get on the wine list, I
Mhm.
mean, all she asks is your first name, your last name, and an email address.
Mhm.
She won't give that out to anybody.
Uh-huh.
Her name is Samantha Turner, and she's from Italy originally, and she's got a phenomenal palate. And when you explain what it is you like about wine, like what I just tried to teach you,
Mhm.
hopefully I succeeded,
I did very nice.
she's gonna understand exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
So don't be intimidated about going into a wine shop. This is where if you're not familiar, or if you don't have a lot of confidence about ordering wine, like I said, a big supermarket or something like that, they're just there to sell it. It's unfortunate that they don't know about wine, but they won't be able to explain to you what it is you like, because they probably haven't tasted it. At Wine Sense, they've tasted every single wine on the shelf, that's why it's on the shelf, and they can tell you. I like wine with tannin, right there.
Yeah,
Well, something that's under $15, okay, here's one.
Oh,
They
yeah,
don't-
you were gonna mention the prices of
Oh.
wines.
There they are.
Ah, there they are.
Yeah.
Well, they're all reasonable.
No,
Okay, the most expensive is, I think that young lady asked me what the most expensive, I think I said Viognier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
there's
you can get Viogniers for $11, it depends.
yeah, there's, again, on wine, Boston University runs an overpriced Superior set of.
Oh, the Elizabeth Bishop thing. Yep.
Oh, my God.
It's a little, I looked at it.
Yeah, it's overpriced in my humble opinion. They do some other nice things that are free. There was recently a course on wines of Sicily, that was free. If you go to the BU website, it's right on Commonwealth Ave where they have these. There are series, and also we've had some, where did we look for that wine cooking course in Waltham? Do you remember?
Oh, that was a liquor store that has, it was a guy from Tremont,
Tremont Beverages or something?
no, the restaurant.
Anyhow, they have a fully organized kitchen, they show you more lights and stuff,
Oh,
but,
okay.
That was fun.
and that's in Waltham, and that's something to look up, I guess, more. But the BU stuff is very, very interesting, again, in my opinion, it's
Do you know of
overpriced.
any food and wine pairing type?
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I started to say, where I teach at Wine Sense in Andover, we're gonna be doing a food pairing class this summer.
But I mean with foods.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It'll, I'm not even sure if we might do slides, but probably not as many as you saw tonight.
Right.
Since there's gonna be more food and wine, yeah, we definitely.
Yeah, the
We
journeyman
need
does
a
some
bunch
of
of
those.
few inns around here that do that, and we think that's fun.
So we do, at Wine Sense, we do single night classes like this one, usually designed to take 90 minutes or so. I'm in the middle of, I did a class last night at Wine Sense, just on War Valley, and it's in 4 parts, every Monday night, so, and it was requested. People wanna know more, and, once you get into it, and once I start doing the research, there's so much information,
No.
it's good.
Yeah.
So,
Robert Parker, wine advocate and wine spectator, anything else you'd recommend as a book, or more importantly, that newsletter sounded of interest, and your opinion on the Parker 100 rating crap stuff?
oh, you answered your own question. Actually, I'm glad you brought it up. When those little signs that you see that are pre-printed, and usually in liquor stores, they're there to help you.
Yeah.
But it's actually from a critic. Robert Parker, that you just mentioned, is a very famous wine critic. He
Yeah,
rates
remember, he
wines.
started off as an attorney, so beware.
Yeah. And he's made his reputation by recommending wines. But he's admitted it. He's biased. He
Yeah.
likes red more than
Right.
white. So, but he's extremely influential. But what he likes, you may not like it because,
It's his taste.
yeah, it'd be like me recommending. It's the same thing as me saying, well, I like wine number 2. Yes, well,
And he's not
You might
connected
hate-
with Wine Spectator.
No, it's wine advocate.
he's
I've
with.
seen
Yeah, he's wine
things from
advocate.
Wine.
But they have these little signs. Even wine magazines will have these little signs next to a certain wine
Yeah.
with a rating based on 100 points.
Yeah.
It's really based on 80 to 100. Below 80, they're not even gonna list it. But, so if it's rated, if the wine is rated in the low 80s, they probably didn't like it very much. If it's closer to 100 or anything over 90, they really liked it. But it's still based on somebody else's palate.
Right.
That's why I'm doing this class, because I want this based on your palate.
Well said.
That's why I keep constantly changing, because 4 years ago when I did this course, it was totally different. I still have some of the old slides, and I'm constantly changing it to get the point across. Because I want you to be able to go into a shop where they know about wine, so you can explain what it is you like.
Yeah, commentaries on the wines at Georgetown Liquor, they've done some wine tastings there.
Yeah.
They seem to be a reasonable job.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, am I anywhere?
No, that's fine.
Super.
But if you wanna, I think the email address is on the thing. I'd love to see you come to a class at Wine Sense.
What do they challenge you?
Like $36, something like that. But there's a lot of wine, and there'll be cheese. We do handouts. A lot of crackers and cheese and bread. Because Whole Foods is right next door.
Yeah.
Yeah, by
It's
the
very
way,
handy.
in, where's the place? The guy with the most wine, he's got 100,000 bottles of wine.
Who is this?
Yeah, that unless you pay him. It's right after Lowell in, what the hell town?
Is it Tingsboro? or-
Tingsboro. It's called Stonehenge. He's
Well, it sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's superb. They'll take you on a tour. He's got the largest number of bottles of wine on
Yeah, you
site.
arrange ahead or.
Yeah, and he'll take you around and show you the stuff.
Oh, this is a restaurant?
Yeah.
It's a restaurant.
Oh, yeah, I've been back there.
Restaurant spa.
Yeah,
And it's
Okay.
very nice, it's a hotel.
I thought you were talking about a wine shop, but this is a restaurant.
It's the restaurant Stonehenge, and
They changed the name, did it used to have,
the restaurant has changed
Oh,
names.
restaurant names,
Yeah.
that's the name of the inn, I think.
The inn is called it, and it really is very, very interesting. It's gotten some good ratings, they're pricey, but you can stay there and they do wine pairing dinner, so they're
Oh,
very
nice.
nice. And just how many bottles of wine a guy has, and they'll tell you stories. And it's got a rotating thing of wines that drive you crazy looking at it, but I think that's an interesting place nearby in Tingsboro, right off of 495.
You're very welcome. Did everybody fill out the evaluation?
And also the restaurant in Somerville called Journeyman, will have wine dinners, and they're very interesting people.
Yes, they were more interesting when they weren't leaving.
Yeah.
They used to have it in their house.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What's that? I'm gonna find out at the desk what they want me to do.